Thank you for joining me for another interview with the Wellness Doctor Network, where we connect the community to top-notch doctors. And even within the network, we collaborate so we can bridge the gap in healthcare. I'm your host, Dr. Hollen Meyer, and today we're going to be joined by the amazing Dr. Brandon Nutt, located in Dallas, Texas. His office is called the Wellness Institute of Dallas, and he's a chiropractor that specializes in functional neurology, functional medicine. They have some really cool therapies and gyrostim. They do soft tissue work and nutrition. Top-notch office. And together, him and his entire team at the office are able to help their patients in a very unique way. I'm excited to introduce to you Dr. Brandon Nutt. So welcome, Dr. Brandon Nutt. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited for this topic, being brain function. So as a chiropractor, tell us how chiropractic and brain function relate.
Absolutely. So when we talk about chiropractic and why as a chiropractor I'm talking about brain health and brain function, it really comes down to a couple things. The adjustment can be a powerful neurological stimulation. So depending on which side of the body we're adjusting, what joints we're adjusting, or extremity adjustments or neck adjustments in particular can be very powerful. The adjustment itself, the tool that the chiropractor learns, the tools in the toolbox the chiropractor learns actually fits very well in the neurological world. But on top of that, it's the chiropractic philosophy of, the body can heal itself. We just need to supply what it needs to heal. So nutrition and supplementation and exercise and different types of stimulation are the things that we use in our toolbox as opposed to what other professions might use. The philosophy, I think, is what the biggest tool we have is.
I agree with that, with the philosophy being the power that made the body heals the body, and really try to heal from the inside out and focusing on the nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord. It starts there. That controls everything in your body. And so as chiropractors, we remove that interference. And there's many different techniques to accomplish that. But I do want to point out the fact that functional neurology is still a different level of focusing on the nervous system and brain function itself. Tell us about how do you go about specializing in functional neurology? Like, what goes along with that? Is there extra schooling? Yeah,
so there's actually a diplomate program, Diplomate of American Board of Chiropractic Neurology, and it's a very long process. There's the minimum 300-hour requirement, which is in-class study time. But then there's also, there's different levels. So there's master's degree programs. There's actually PhD programs. There's International Association of Functional Neurology and Rehabilitation, or IAFNR. There's a couple different avenues a chiropractor can go down. And a lot of times in these classes, especially with IAFNR and the Carrick Institute and a couple of the other ones, it's not just chiropractors. A lot of times there's PTs, a lot of times there's MDs or DOs or acupuncturists or nurse practitioners and people who are learning all these different, it's not just chiropractors in these classes, but it's definitely a multidisciplinary postgraduate education program.
I love the whole idea of multidisciplinary stuff because we can collaborate and learn from each other as we have different kind of tools in our kit as well. And collaboratively, we can do better together, which is the whole point of the Wellness Doctor Network. So let's get back to the topic of the day, and that's brain function and some exercises and some information we can use that we can implement now. Tell us more about brain function.
Yeah, so when it comes down to it, our brain, it boils down to three major sources of things that our body needs for our brain to work properly. So really, number one, oxygen. Like if the unfortunate thing is if someone drowns, their brain is the thing that dies. You can resuscitate a body basically bring a body back to life when it comes to the muscles and when it comes to the heart and the lungs. You can get a body working, but it's the brain that has the most damage. So that's, and that's an unfortunate thing. But every single day, people that are anemic or people that have sleep apnea or people that restrict their oxygen in their blood, whether it's because they're not breathing properly or they can't transfer that oxygen around their body or deliver that oxygen to their brain, those are the people that the long chronic hypoxic people are the ones that are going to slowly see their brain degenerate over time. So oxygenation is really one of the main things. Secondly, fuel. So basically nutrition. Are we getting the amino acids that we need to make neurotransmitters within our brain? Are we getting the glucose for neurons to function? Are we getting, are we getting the things through our blood-brain barrier to make the brain capable of functioning? Okay. Omega fatty acids, like DHA fatty acid, is essential fatty acid. We have to get it from our diet. And if you're eating McDonald's for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're not going to be getting that nutrition.
You're going to be getting a whole lot of junk that's slowly killing you. That's suicide.
We all know it, but at the same time, we don't all know the nutrition that's needed for brain health. And a lot of people, they're doing a really good job being fat-free, or being, avoiding animal fats, or doing certain things that they're told is very, very healthy. But at the end of the day, there's some correlation between the era where there's fat-free diet was, the diet to be on to lose weight. But at the same time, now we're seeing an influx of all these people with early cognitive impairment and dementia and Alzheimer's at a higher rate than we've ever seen it. So, in the 80s and 90s, people did something nutritionally that affected their brain that we're seeing today. So I'm not putting all the blame on that, because there's environmental factors, traumatic brain injuries, and things like that. But nutrition plays a huge role.
Right. And the thing is, people don't realize how important what they do now is going to impact them years later, because we live in a society that wants immediate results, and we don't really care about the long-term impact or effect. And so we just have to, I love that you're going to give us this information today, because we have to be our own advocate, and we have to stop playing the victim in society and take control of our health. And so thank you so much for sharing all this with us. I'm excited to get into it.
Yeah, I think another thing is, stimulation plays a big role too. If there's a lot of research that shows if someone has a hip surgery, and the outcomes are not very good unless you do something to get that person up and stimulating that hip to be basically feedback to the brain. So we know that if you put someone in a wheelchair, or put someone in their bedridden, we know that the brain function significantly decreases at an accelerated rate. So we know that stimulation, whether it's physical through exercise, or just walking, or moving around our environment, manipulating our environment, plays a big role there. But then socially, we have to be able to talk to people, and we have to have social contact, and we're social people. We're a social animal. We need that contact. We need that we need that kind of communication to stimulate our brain. So
right, you've got to have that connection and that interaction. Okay, so what can we do at home to improve the oxygenation, I want to say blood flow to our brain? How do we get more oxygen to the brain?
So there's deep breathing exercises. A lot of people get super stressed, or we're sitting right now. Both you and I are sitting here, and we're trying to have as good posture as we can. But if you're sitting at the computer, or doing something where you get all curled up and crunched up on an iPad or on a phone, all this forward head posture, all the rounding of the shoulders limits the ability for our lungs to expand. So that's things that can limit oxygenation too, if you're sitting at a desk all day.
So really extend everything, right? So work on our extensors and extend everything. And if you're sitting at a desk all day, just try to have good posture, but every now and then just extend everything. Take deep breaths in, stand up so you can actually get a good breath in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and breathing from the belly. I think a lot of people, they tend to breathe from the neck, and they have all these neck muscles that are kind of like bulging out of their neck. And it's like, take a deep breath. If your belly goes in, you're doing it wrong. Your belly should go out when we take a deep breath. And a lot of people don't realize that we should be breathing from our diaphragm. And there's, one of the easiest things in the world you could do is just go on YouTube and type in deep breathing exercises. And there's a million people out there teaching proper belly breathing.
I think that's great. And I think naturally, most of us do breathe from our chest, or just even above the neck area. But I actually have to focus on not just breathing from my belly, but like, is my belly going out, right? Is my belly distending when I'm taking that deep breath in? And that's the way we know that our brain is getting more oxygen, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
Belly breathing is something that we use in our office as a therapy every single day. And then on top of that, blood sugar plays a big role in this. So, a lot of people who, I always use a Snicker commercial, like obviously Snickers not being the best example, but if they have good,
everybody knows it though,
right? The hypoglycemic person becomes a little snappy or maybe a little edgy. And it's kind of like, hey, you need to take a break and have a snack because you're becoming a diva. Well, I tell people all the time, you should never, never, ever even get close to that point. Always just, one of the easiest things you can do is just have a bag of trail mix or a bag of, or, maybe some carrots and hummus or carrots and guacamole, something with healthy fat and protein, or maybe some fiber, and just have something with you at all times and just have a little snack every hour and a half, 2 hours, especially if you're one of those people whose blood sugar crashes really quickly.
I agree with that. And in our household, we call that hangry. And it's become quite a buzz and kind of funny. Yeah. It's kind of a household word now, but the problem is we should never get there. And in the past, I had a significant problem with hypoglycemia, and I have to have food with me at all times. It used to be in crisis situations, I would wait until that happened, but just as you mentioned, and more knowledge that I acquired, we do not want you to even get close to that as far as your brain function happening, and then all the things in the body that affects, even other than the brain as well. So the second point being nutrition, the second point being nutrition, the blood sugar is a huge component of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, you don't want to be riding a roller coaster where your blood sugar is too high because you just had like an intense carb heavy meal. So kind of going back to the Snickers commercial, if you're hypoglycemic and you have that sugar, basically a Snickers bar, it spikes your blood sugar so high, and you have what ends up being called reactive hypoglycemia, where your blood sugar plummets. And that's an hour, 45 minutes, maybe an hour after having that Snickers bar, you're right back to square one, where you're becoming angry again. So we don't really want to be doing that. But like I tell everyone, if you have a candle, that's like fat. Fat is like a candle. It just burns nice and smooth constantly, whereas carbohydrate is like jet fuel. You light it and it just goes, big explosion of energy, and then it's gone. So we got to be careful with becoming reactive hypoglycemic as well. But healthy fats, healthy proteins, and some fiber typically keeps us nice and slow burn.
Okay, awesome. I love that. And you had also mentioned from a nutritional standpoint, getting your fatty acids in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the brain needs DHA. Basically, it's an essential fatty acid. We can only get it from diet. And when we get the DHA from diet, usually from either fish or some nuts and seeds, omega-3 fatty acids can be found in, unfortunately, it's not really found in any of the land animal, the cows, the chickens, the pork, but actually there's a little bit in bison though, interestingly.
Good. I love that. I love the epic bison bars. What kind of fish would be ideal to get appropriate omegas, 3 in particular, and avoid the 6s? What fish or what, I know you said nuts, but is there specific fish or specific nuts that would be better than others?
Yeah, so when it comes to the nuts, I always tell people if it looks like a brain, it's probably good for your brain. So the walnuts and the pecans are especially good. Even cashews are good. Almonds can actually be a little bit heavier in omega-6 fatty acids, but
which is inflammatory. And so for those of y'all who don't know, omega-3 and omega-6s, we want more of omega-3. The omega-6s can become very inflammatory if they're out of balance. Yeah,
they have potential to drive a inflammatory pathway for sure. So, and that's something that we check on pretty much everyone's blood work is omega-3 to omega-6 ratios. And very rarely does someone have a good ratio without doing some kind of supplementation. But it's always funny because I can tell when someone's been taking a supplement because their omega-3s are typically a little bit better.
Sure, exactly. And then the last one you had mentioned was stimulation. And I'm thinking exercise, but what can we do at home, or what do you mean by stimulation? What's something simple that an 80-year-old can do? What's something that just a normal person can do? What does that look like from Dr. Nutt's perspective?
Yeah. So the majority of the brain is used to perceive our environment and feel how our body is moving through the environment. So exercise is, I mean, you can't expect your brain to work well without moving it, without moving your body.
Okay.
So it takes brain stimulation going down to make my arm move, and then it takes stimulation from my arm back to my brain to relay and tell me how I'm doing the exercise. So swinging a golf club the first time might be awkward, but swinging a golf club when you're Tiger Woods seems pretty easy. And it's because you do it over and over and over. You create that muscle memory. Well, exercise, can be done in a similar pathway where, you start off doing it, and the brain loves novelty. If you've never done an elliptical before, your brain loves it because it's kind of like, how do I do this? And once you get going, there's a cross crawl mechanism, which is very healthy for our brain. There's an extensor tone, which helps our posture. But I generally tell people exercise should be something that you like doing. I play hockey. That's my exercise. I love playing hockey because it's fun. It's competitive. It's something that I've done since I was very young. So, that's my exercise. I love playing hockey. Now, I also don't play hockey every day, so I still lift weights and do different types of exercises, cardiovascular exercise, high intensity interval training. But when it comes down to it, that type of stimulation is very, very important. We can't expect our brain to work well without it. But then the social aspect, exercise can be a social thing as well. Having, creating friendships and having to communicate between teammates, or having to communicate and, to achieve the goal, right? Or, to beat the other team, or even just having a stimulating conversation, having a philosophical conversation can be very invigorating to the frontal lobes as well.
That's true. And even like during the day, exercise is good. I don't want to take away from that. But even during the day, if you're sitting at your desk, like you can do like 10 windmill things right here. Or I have sometimes some of my older patients just kind of do like leg lifts in the chair. You don't have to go to the gym in order to do this. I have a question too, because when we talk about brain function, we talk about exercise, and regular type of exercise and just getting the body moving is obviously important and it helps brain function. What about things that, like, when I think of brain exercises, I'm thinking of like crossword puzzles, Sudoku, memory games. Does that have the same impact and the same effect?
So it's different aspects of the brain. So there's obviously the thought and the foreshadowing of Sudoku and doing the kind of the word puzzles and that type of thing. But that's a much further forward part of our brain called our frontal lobe. But a lot of times, just start with the basics. Get your body moving.
Okay.
Helps stimulating that, and then you're going to notice a change in your cognition, a change in your mental sharpness. Everyone wants to focus on these little brain teasers and brain games, but a lot of times, do the basics first, get up and move around, and then start doing some of those more cognitive therapies.
I think that's great, because sometimes it ends up being kind of a cop-out, like I don't have to exercise, I'm just going to do my brain exercises. But I always encourage people, if you go to work and you work in a building that's 2-story or more, like take the stairs in the morning, at lunch, and in the evening, just kind of re-energize yourself, or get up and do 20 squats, or punch out in front of you. Like, just get moving, because you'll even be more productive in the office. You'll be more creative. You'll get those creative juices flowing as well as you start to provide more oxygen for the brain and the body to start functioning.
Absolutely. No, I do the same thing. I tell people at lunchtime, instead of just, feeling like they need to go grab that coffee or grab like something sugary or an energy drink.
Right.
Run up and down the stairs a few times, and that's going to kind of get your fight or flight hormones rolling, and you should feel a lot more awake and a lot better than just artificially stimulating with caffeine or sugar.
Right, because that's going to give you that reactive hypoglycemia, and it'll just, your energy, you'll be buzzing around for a while, but then you'll drop and you'll crash.
A lot of times it's uncomfortable energy too. Too much caffeine, it'll give you kind of the jitters and make you feel a little anxious.
Right, you're not going to be clear-headed. And even though you might not want to walk around the building, or you might not want to get up and walk around or do some activity, it does get easier and it does get more fun. And if you can only make it 1 flight of stairs, maybe next time you can do 2, or it might take you a week to walk 10 laps or whatever it is and whatever is applicable for your environment on a daily basis. So just to recap, we've got ways that we can enhance brain function is with oxygen, nutrition, and then stimulation and movement.
Yep.
Awesome. Anything else you want to wrap this conversation up with?
No, I think we hit it. And I think if people just focus on those three things on a daily basis, never letting themselves get, their blood sugar too low, they do some deep breathing exercise, kind of force themselves to get up and just move around for a minute or two. I think people will realize that, wow, the brain can really function at a higher level if we really take care of it.
Exactly. And consistently, because if you do it one day, actually you will probably notice a difference, but a long-term impact to do it consistently. Just stick to a few small things and be consistent with that before you add more things in. So thanks everyone for joining us for another interview with the doctor from the Wellness Doctor Network, Dr. Brandon Nutt. Thank you so much for creating time out of your busy day to help us as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.